usually what happens in the class happens outside the class, because if one kid has a hard time to get along with his friend inside the class when they have a task together, so probably the same thing will happen after school. And if one kid gets frustrated easily, so the same thing will happen after school. So I think that we have the chance to talk about it and stop for a second and analyze it. It's great, because usually when we have a regular class or the teacher doesn't have time, maybe she's not aware of it, and she has the material that she has to teach. So when we have a period that just focus on this, it's amazing.
Absolutely. I agree. It really is part of the CASEL, the Collaboration for Academic and Social Emotional Learning, part of their circle, which illustrates the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. On that outer circle, that does encompass the community.
The fact that kids stayed at home for almost 2 years, didn't go to school, and they didn't meet with their friends, so it affected their communication skills and social skills. They are not used to interact with other friends face to face, and they are not used to solve conflict. And then we need to teach them those basic skills now, because they missed 2 years of
Absolutely. I think that
learning this,
not having that face-to-face interaction really affects our ability to empathize, because when we're just sitting behind a screen and we can't see like facial expressions on people or what people are thinking or feeling, it creates a barrier there, and it really affects our ability to be able to empathize with other people.
Hello everyone, my name is Tomer Camille. I'm a sport therapist, and welcome to Jumping Forward, SEL podcast. Today we have a special guest, Michelle Krostman. Michelle is a social emotional learning coach in a school district, and I'm really excited to know about her job. So, hey Michelle, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. I appreciate you having me on and sharing my passion today.
So I'm really excited about that. So first of all, I would like to hear about what is social emotional learning.
Yeah, we hear a lot about SEL these days, and not everybody knows that it stands for social emotional learning. And it's the process through which all young people and adults acquire knowledge and skills and attitudes to develop healthy identities within themselves, and then also manage emotions and achieve both personal and collective goals, and then feel and show empathy for others, and then being able to establish and then maintain those supportive relationships in our life. And then lastly, that cognitive piece is the making and caring decisions. There are 5 core competencies of SEL under CASEL, which is the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. The 2 that have to do with self, intrapersonal, are self-awareness and self-management. And then there are 2 pieces that deal with other people, and that's social awareness and relationship skills. And then that cognitive piece again is that responsible decision making.
Okay, good. And you mentioned earlier that SEL becomes more and more popular. Why do you think is the reason behind this?
I believe that it's become more and more popular because people are starting to understand the value that interconnectedness and relationships and being able to have a calm and regulated body have on our learning. We know that social emotional learning boosts our academic gains by about an average of 11%. And when students can be regulated and feel calm and safe in their bodies, then they're more apt to learn.
How do you think that COVID-19 affected the need of SEL?
Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So, my school district, I've been in this role for 7 years, so we've had it established for quite a while. And just before COVID, we were really learning about what those 5 core competencies meant, how to implement those within the classroom, being able to identify strategies to use within them. And then when COVID hit, I think we collectively as humans really realized how much being interconnected and relationships meant and how important they were to our everyday lives and our mental health. And that period in time, I think really, if there were any people that were doubting that social emotional learning should be an integrated part of our school district, I think that there were so many more after that experience that realized, yeah, this really is important to us as humans.
And I think that the fact that kids stayed at home for almost 2 years, didn't go to school, and they didn't meet with their friends, so it affected their communication skills and social skills. They are not used to interact with other friends face to face, and they are not used to solve conflict. And then we need to teach them those basic skills now because
Absolutely.
they missed
Absolutely. I
two years
think that
of learning this. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, not having that face-to-face interaction really affects our ability to empathize, because when we're just sitting behind a screen and we can't see like facial expressions on people or what people are thinking or feeling, it creates a barrier there, and it really affects our ability to be able to empathize with other people. And then also during COVID, I mean, we just didn't have the chance to practice those collaboration skills and being with people who are both the same and different than us, and working through those things and learning from other people. So, I think there were some good things that we got out of COVID, but I think, and one of those is that I think that people really understood the importance of social emotional learning in an integrated space within the school day.
Yes. Can you share something about your school, something special about your school?
Yes. Again, my school implemented this role about 7 years ago because we really are a whole child school emphasis. Our district is, and we really believe that kids have to be safe. They have to know who they are. They have to be able to collaborate and problem solve out in the real world. So we actually, after COVID, we kind of backed up a little bit in our implementation of social emotional learning, and we started with the social emotional learning and wellness of staff. So we implemented a book study that goes through each month of the year and focuses on our compassion resilience as humans and school teachers and staff in the school, and how much emotional toll that can take. And so we really just focused in on what that means to us, social emotional learning in our own lives, because when we're taking care of ourselves, then we are better apt to take care of our classroom community and the individuals that are within it, because we really see the value in it and believe it, and we can model it authentically.
So, what is the book of the month?
The book we used was Elena Aguilar's, and it was called Onward. And she also has another fantastic book that's after that called Coaching with Equity. So we actually did that one as a book study as well, but we started with the book Onward, and that's about compassion resilience.
How do you pick the students? You teach the entire class, or you pick several students? How does it work exactly?
For social emotional learning in our district, I mean, we know that all students need social emotional learning. There are students that get different kinds of instruction, but all students get social emotional learning instruction. So whether that is something explicit, like through programs like Second Step or Zones of Regulation, or it's just integrated throughout their day, we just believe that all students, all humans need those skills in life, and they're important to practice on a daily basis.
I see. It's good that all the students get a chance to study SEL, because I know in some schools they only pick relevant or students that face some challenges. You say no, we want to teach all the students, and I think it's important. I think it's important. It's a good thing. And how do you
Yes, and
match
then
the? I'm sorry, yeah.
also, just being able to, we know that everyone just needs to be able to increase our pro-social behaviors such as like kindness, sharing, and empathy. We know that that improves overall student attitudes towards school. It reduces stress, it reduces depression. So we just feel like that's something that everybody within the school should be getting instruction in and can benefit from.
Do you have special programs for students that face social challenges, communication challenges, and they need extra time?
Sure, we do. Just like with everything else, with math instruction or with reading instruction, we can differentiate what that looks like to meet the needs of a student. So if a student needs more work in like the area of emotion regulation, then we have different groups that are meeting with our counselors for things like that. If a student is maybe struggling a little bit more with like grief or loss, we have groups set up for that. And we also use a survey 2 times a year for all students. And besides observational data that is going on and ongoing, we give this survey, and it's really allowing the students to have a voice in their own social emotional learning. And
Yeah,
we ask questions that are related to both their self and then their school environment. So then that data and other data are used to collectively evaluate what goals and action steps that we need to take. So, for example, there are 4 elementary schools in my district. And just this past year, one of the elementary schools showed that the students felt like they were lacking a little bit of sense of belonging there, which actually made sense to me because it's a new school. And then another one of my elementary schools, the students were reporting that they needed more help in the area of emotion regulation. So with those surveys, then it's easier to cater exactly to the needs of the students.
I see. I see. And how do you match the relevant program to the relevant class or to the relevant students?
And I think, a little bit about what I was talking about kind of looking at that data, and it's not just the survey data, but it's also just observational data. It's data that the students are giving us, maybe their caregivers, other teachers, and we know that the students we're raising like such self-aware students these days who are so comfortable in sharing who they are because of social emotional learning in the school. Students will tell you themselves, like, I know I need a little bit more work in the self-management area, or,
Wow.
I'm not great at making decisions right now. So based on all of that data, we're able to help students get just what they need.
It's really impressive that they have the ability to share and that they trust you and that they can talk about it. It's really impressive.
It is. We're raising different people from when I went to school, right? That was never a part of my school day. We might have had like show and tell where we shared like something tangible that was important to us, but now we're sharing our emotions on a regular basis.
And the fact that their voice counts, it builds trust, it builds confidence, and it builds relationship because they see me, they hear me, they trust me. It's great.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you set the goals? Because you talked earlier about the survey, but I believe you do it at the end of the session. But how you set the goals in the beginning, if you set the goals for the entire group or you set the goals specifically for each student?
We take the year before data and observational skills that we looked at, and then we also I meet with administration in each school and either like a leadership team or a PBIS team, and we come together and we talk about what are we seeing within the data, what are we seeing within our classrooms, what are we seeing out at recess, what are the caregivers telling us that the students are really growing in, and then what is our responsibility as a school to grow in. And so, for example, if we are learning that emotion regulation is still a tricky area for students in a particular school, then we would have our weekly and daily lessons really around that skill, emotion regulation, and what that means, and what probably as far back as like identifying our emotions and what that feels like within our body, and then the strategies that we can use in the moments. Also, we have professional development, and that's a big part of my role as a social emotional learning coach and a coordinator. I give professional development to the staff at our school, and so part of that would be looking at that data and evaluating it for their individual classrooms, and then even more so the individual students within that class, and then After we have that data, let's take a look at it and decide, where do I want to go with this data? What are some things, what are some action steps that I can put in place so that I can be specifically working on what I know students need growth in, and then highlight their greatness in things that they've already grown in.
What advice would you give students who are struggling with their social skills? For example, students that have hard time to make friends, or they need some help with manage their anger.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, I think in order for social and emotional skills to develop, we have to teach them explicitly and they have to be practiced on a regular basis. Just like
Yeah.
if a student needs to learn the concept of more or less in math, they must learn turn taking in play. They must learn how to read or letter sound association. So we practice that. They also must learn those emotional skills like practicing breathing to calm so that when their body does become dysregulated, they already know that strategy, or using emotion vocabulary to identify and communicate their feelings. So I would first say that it takes practice, like everything takes practice. And then I would also say just to have a little grace and patience with yourself, because practicing showing emotions and practicing problem solving and collaboration is a vulnerable thing to do. And so the more that we do it, the more that we're going to feel comfortable with. So just giving some grace and time and then really practicing in on it.
And when you teach the students those goals, though, they have to trust you. They have to see that you have something in common. They have to listen in order to build this relationship. So, how
Yes.
do you do it? How you assist them to build their confidence, and how do you approach them? Because you have to approach them differently than a regular class, because they have to feel special. They have to feel like they trust you in order to see the progress. So how do you do it?
From the very start, you have to just begin with building that climate and culture within your classroom that does speak trust. We can share things. You can make a mistake, and that's celebrated, and that's okay. You can be exactly who you are without fear of you feeling like you're not enough. I think that that starts with staff, the teachers being able to model the social emotional learning skills themselves. So that may look like I may be teaching a lesson and maybe I hear some talking out in the crowd, and maybe that frustrates me. I could just say, "Whoo, you know what? I am going to need to just take a little bit of a reset here for like a minute because I can hear some people talking and it kind of hurts my feelings, and it makes me confused because I can't concentrate. So I'm just going to take a minute here and take a couple deep breaths and then get back to what I was talking about. Also, I mean, we're human beings as adults too, and being able to share openly and vulnerably, but also appropriately, what we're feeling also helps students model and share those things themselves. So if I'm willing to put myself out there and say, oh, you know what, it's not a great day for me. I don't really know why, but I'm just kind of feeling down, and this happened, and then this happened, and so like in order to get myself in a better place, I got to think of some things that I can do to kind of get me out of this slump right now. And just also, putting it out there that all feelings are okay, no matter what your feelings, because we know that like we're not going to feelings are not linear, right? They kind of go up and down, and that's normal. And students need to hear that that's normal because they're not bad people, and it's not a bad thing to feel anger or sadness or pain or any of those things. It's very normal. And so we just need to know what we can do with those feelings if we are feeling something like that. So being able to model it and to show it, practice it, and really create that culture of trust in the classroom is really essential when you are teaching social emotional learning, and also really believing in it, because students can tell when we're authentic and when we're not. So if we really believe in this and know that it makes a difference for ourselves, then they're going to feel that too.
So talk about two extremely important points. I think one, that you share how you feel. You said that I'm hurt, because I think that a lot of students, they feel, but they don't know how to express it. They feel that they are angry. They feel that they are sad, or they feel that they don't know how to manage their anger. But when we call it and we mention it and we say, I'm now happy, I'm now angry, I'm now sad. So when we call it, it's easier for them to express their feelings next time. And one more thing important, I think that you said that you share, because when you share, yeah, today I had a bad day, or today the weather doesn't affect me well. So they say, okay, you're a human being, and they see that you share. So next time they'll feel secure to share themselves. So when they see that you open your hearts, and it will be easier for them to do it next time.
Absolutely.
Can you give us an example of a drill that you do in order
Um, sure,
to teach
sure.
SEL or to guide or to lead deliver a message?
Sticking on that theme of being able to share emotions, we regularly with both students and staff, because we share at staff meetings as adults, and then we share within the classroom. We do quick emotion check-ins each day, and sometimes we sit in a circle and do that. We circle up so that we can create that bond of unity and we can all be on the same level. And we just, it might be, hey, give me one word that you're feeling today, or it could be what color of zone with the zones of regulations are you feeling right now. Students do have the right to pass, because as adults, we know that there are some things and some days that are just hard, but most students do end up sharing. So that regular practice of just like kind of getting a pulse on where the classroom is at helps the a staff member who's in charge of them. Like, okay, I've got a lot of students that are telling me that they're feeling kind of gloomy or tired right now. So maybe I'm going to have to kind of change up what I'm getting ready to do here. Or, if everybody's excited because maybe there's an assembly coming up, maybe do something more calm in the class. So that regular practice of just being able to identify how they're feeling. And then the other one also is like the idea of having like a morning meeting where we talk about something that's going on, we share something, because it's really important to value all voices in the room. So even if that's just two or three words that each student is saying, just to make that a regular practice of making sure that everybody is included in what we're talking about, so that we have more of that trust built and that interconnectedness, and we become more of a family as opposed to just a classroom community.
And what is the difference between the opening session to the last session? So you come to a new class, you have to introduce yourself and talk about what we're going to do this year. And you have the last session when you want to summarize the whole process. So can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, I like the opening routines for me. I guess I'll say routines. They to me they really set the tone and the purpose for learning, and what we want to create within our learning space. And while closing routines to me, they give opportunities to provide moments of reflection, consolidation of everything that we've learned, and really able to look back and focus on any greatness and strengths that were gained during that time. So the beginning, I think, more sets the tone and the purpose, and then the end would be that time to be able to reflect on what we have learned and how we feel.
You said reflection, and I think it's really important because usually what happens in the class happens outside the class, because if one kid has hard time to get along with his friend inside the class when they have a task together, so probably the same thing will happen after school. And if one kid gets frustrated easily, so the same thing will happen after school. So I think that we have the chance to talk about it and stop for a second and analyze it. It's great, because usually when we have a regular class or the teacher doesn't have time, maybe she's not aware of it, and she has the material that she has to teach. So when we have a period that just focus on this, it's amazing.
Absolutely. I agree. It really is part of the castle, the collaboration for academic and social emotional learning, part of their circle, which illustrates the five core competencies of social emotional learning. On that outer circle, that does encompass the community. So outside the school building, right? Home, and then the general community as a whole. So I know in our community, I've been able to like meet with the after school clubs and the library, the public library that's here, so that they're using the same emotion vocabulary that we are in the schools, so that the students can see how that transfers into their community. And we also provide professional development for parents and caretakers and anybody else in the
Oh,
community that
wow.
wants to learn more about social emotional learning
Yeah.
or be able to apply it within their home.
And usually they cooperate because it's important because you provide the tools in school, but the parents they have to cooperate too. So usually they cooperate.
Yes.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's
And
amazing that you.
we're seeing just like a greater interest in it, right? People aren't they're not self-conscious about being a part of it. They're excited to be a part of it and to be able to share and brainstorm ideas and really connect on things that maybe they're struggling with and that are going well. So it's exciting to see the caretakers come together and have some of those same experiences that their students are.
Right, very right. It's really impressive. Can you give us an example of successful story?
One thing that I'm thinking of, there was a fourth grade student that moved to our district about a year and a half ago now. And he came and he was getting additional help in math and also additional help in reading. He needed some help, some specific help with his comprehension, and he needed some specific help with his number sense. In talking with him, because I was in his classroom like one time a week to do some SEL things, he hadn't at that time really felt a sense of belonging with school. In fact, he kind of looked at it as a place that he didn't want to be because when he was there, he was really struggling with really fundamental academic things. And I started teaching more explicit SEL lessons in his classroom. And what I noticed right away was that not only was he outstanding in the area of social emotional learning, but I would even say he was gifted in that area. And we don't often think as of social emotional learning as something that you can be gifted in, but he truly is. And his ability to put himself in somebody else's shoes and have that empathy and be able to creatively problem solve and have the courage and vulnerability to talk through things was well beyond what his age group developmental level I would think that most students would have. And he started recognizing that in himself, that you know what, I am gifted in this area, and people are starting to look at me as leaders, because those social and emotional learning skills, they're going to go into everything. So right, you're out at recess and they're playing a football game or a kickball game, and there's like a disagreement or people don't agree on rules, and like if you're strong with your social emotional learning skills, you're going to be able to collectively work through those things. And so people started seeing him as a leader, and really his whole sense of belonging and how he feels about himself in the school and classroom community have changed. So I love that example. That will affect his life.
Affect his life now and affect his life in the future as a grown person. So
Yes,
it's really impressive and it's really exciting to know that you can affect kids and you can affect their future.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that people are just feeling comfortable doing it. It's not it's not a scary thing. It's not uncomfortable because it's something that we practice so much. It's just a regular part of our school day.
So some final thoughts. What is one thing that you keep yourself that you do that keep yourself calm when things get challenging?
Yeah, I would say that just remembering things that make me feel connected to myself. So when things start getting chaotic, I can lose that pretty easily. So I kind of go back to what are the things that make me feel like I'm me, right? Is that going for a walk? Is that connecting to my breath? Is that listening to some music that fills my soul? But really, just your overall sense of self to connect you back to that. And I feel like when we can do that, then that's going to promote feelings of groundedness and presence and really just that peacefulness that are so important when things get chaotic.
Good, thank you for this answer and for sharing. And how
Yeah.
do you move yourself from a negative mindset to a positive mindset?
I would say, first of all, just I have to be gentle and encouraging with myself on that because we have been conditioned and raised to focus in on negative things sometimes. So we can have, I say this to the students all the time, like they could have had like one thing that happened in their day that maybe wasn't favorable. And maybe they got in trouble for something, or there was like some kind of an issue that came up. When those students typically leave school, and when we do as adults too, that's the thing that we keep in our mind, that one thing. So I like to remind students that we need to look at our whole and total day because okay, we did have maybe one little glitch there that didn't go well, but what about all that surrounding area that did go well? So taking the time to recognize these positives, I think that just really encourages us. And also then kind of taking that back and thinking, is this in my control or is this out of the realm of my control? If I'm like, thinking about something that's negative or that's not great, like, can I really do anything with that? Or is this just a waste of my time to even be worrying about it? And then I also encourage people to just think about the things that they're thankful for in their life, because more times than not, there is so much to be thankful for that we take for granted. And when we really think about our days and our lives and who we are as people, there's so much to be thankful for.
So it leads out to the last question. So what are the three things that you're grateful for today?
Yeah, and I just when I like I'm so appreciative that we're taking the time to do this because I really feel like the practice of gratitude is so influential in our lives when we can do it on a consistent basis. Just taking that time to recognize positives, it encourages us. It lifts our spirit. I think it also empowers us, especially when we share them with others. So I love that we're doing this practice today. I would say the first thing I'm grateful for is that I'm in a district that has this position because a lot of the surrounding districts where I'm at aren't yet there yet and don't have a
Yeah.
social emotional learning coach. And I think that, hiring somebody and publicly declaring that this is important to us and we're going to hire somebody that's in fact in charge of it to make sure that, our staff and our students are getting it. I think that that really speaks volumes. The second thing I think I'm grateful for is just models in my life that openly expressed emotions easily, and practicing that vulnerability has been really key in my ability to connect with others. I mean, I grew up with a dad who would cry at the Humane Society and animal commercials, and wasn't afraid to show who he was. And my whole family is like that, and I'm just grateful for being brought up in a house that felt free to just express how we were feeling. And then I'm also just grateful for the opportunity to learn and grow as a human and continue to make connections with other people who have like a shared vision for SEL, and then the opportunity to just spread that passion and joy forward.
Wow. So I learned a lot. Thank you so much for your time. It's really fun to see that you're really passionate about what you do and had a good time. And thank you so much. Anything else that you want to say?
Only that, again, I feel like our school district is pretty. We're getting further down the line in how many years that we've been implementing social emotional learning in a meaningful and purposeful way. And during that time, I've been able to create a lot of resources for my school district that we can use as, whole district lessons, classroom lessons for individual students, and as well as providing professional development. So if there are other people just starting their journey, I would be happy to walk them through that or talk with them about it, because I know when we started our journey, I didn't have anybody to talk to, and so now we're kind of at that end of integrating it within our classrooms, and we're kind of at that community piece. I'd be more than happy to talk with anybody that's just starting out.
Right, right. So you can send me your email and can share it when I post the podcast, and then maybe your Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever you
Sure.
want.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.